do that. Okay. So let me just start with Q&A, I guess. If it's something I'm going to cover tonight, I'll say that. I'll also provide you ways to get additional information because I am speaking outside, covering some things I could not cover here. So I'll let you know how you can go and hear those tomorrow night at the Lakewood City College Fair. There are a few in detail things about affordability that I will present there and about FAFSA and some other things about colleges in the process that you might want to go there for because we don't want to have 2-hour Zoom meetings. That's why that happens. All right. Thank you, Quinn, for just letting people right now. I appreciate it. And some of you have already been in that presentation. Let's see if there's any question and answer for a few minutes. You can just unmute your mic and we'll see how far. Just one question a person to start. Then as we go along, you know, you can always stop me, right? Okay, come on. Anybody have a question going in? That's this time of year is that time of year where things will be bothering you? Maybe. Anybody? Oh, maybe I'm keeping you informed enough.
I have a question.
Tell me who you are. That's what you got to do.
Jayla Britt.
Now go ahead.
I just want to know, like, when should I start applying for applications?
Well, that's a loaded question considering that right now, I can't, some of this I can't say in front of everyone, but if you're only doing CSUs, then momentarily I'll be sending it. In fact, yours is very close to being ready. I delayed it pending a meeting with your mother and you tonight.
Oh, okay.
If you're going to apply, we'll talk about other schools tonight and I'll explain it again. We actually did it in the first meeting, but I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
I mean, that's really between us. Anybody else? No, okay, so we'll get started with the presentation. Maybe that'll stimulate some questions. It could do that. Let me get this out of the way. I want to thank you all for coming. I'm humbled by your presence. You could be doing a lot of other things tonight, like watching the Seattle-Arizona game for one. I'm glad to see I'm more important than that. But I really do appreciate you coming in and hearing what's going on in this college process right now, okay? Let's talk about the SAT and the ACT college admission requirements and the fact that they're changing due to the societal realities. And this is something that began in 2012, that colleges began to look at their SAT and ACT admissions requirements, but there have been a few things that have sped things up. There's always been a social justice influence. It's about 2012 to 14 when we had the Ferguson situation and a few other things that made some schools back off on their SATs. And there were notable schools that shocked the world by dropping the SAT. There's some that have already 8 years had done it. So they're probably thinking they're justified now, I guess. Like George Washington University dropped it. University of Dayton dropped it. University of Cincinnati dropped it. There's some notable schools in the area that also totally dropped the SAT, one or two of the Claremonts. But then the COVID-19 responses came in. Notice I never say the virus did it, it's the response to it. It caused college to look at those admissions requirements again, those SAT requirements, and a lot of schools joined because of that. They realized they might get fewer students, so they needed to stimulate interest in their schools. So in fact, they did drop or lower their SAT requirements. Then the Floyd killing and the effects around it came up, and that was a big social justice push, which caused further analysis of the SAT requirements, and then the realities of test sites not being available in California. Remember the COVID one that's already up there were a factor. And then we got the thing where colleges realized, oh boy, we got to change our cost model. Or else we're not going to get the same amount of students we're going to get. We have to start planning for fewer students. We need to lower the SAT requirements or remove them. And so we started seeing that in the last couple of months. And that pretty much was it. And there's one more thing that occurred I'll talk about in a minute. Schools either reduced the requirements, went test optional, or no test. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So the Floyd effect caused additional cost model changes as there began to be, frankly, violence in some of our cities. One city, the murder rate tripled even though people were moving out, that was New York. A lot of people who would have originally sent their students to New York wouldn't dream of it now. There's other cities too, like Portland and Seattle, that are seeing reduced interest in their schools this year because of, reduction in police and cutting the police. A lot of parents don't feel it's safe in those cities. So we're seeing additional schools that are joining the test reduction crusade here over to the right, reduce requirements, test optional or no test at all. Okay, I want to make sure you saw this and saw where we were on this, okay? Here's some key test optional colleges. There they are. Couldn't list them all. I think, Quinn, right, there's over 1,600. Yes? I believe that's true. Is that right, Quinn? Quinn doesn't hear me. So it's over 1,600 schools, I believe, that were accredited four-year colleges and universities, which had, test optional policies for fall 2021. In fact, many of those schools made it a permanent decision to be test optional. We'll talk about what test optional actually means in a minute. 64 campuses are going to be test blind, test free, or score free. I believe this list is now 71, with a couple of the private schools here in this area. Now we can say every private school, although they're not all listed here, in California has gone no test. So even USC is saying optional, but really, in fact, they're having to be no test. We'll talk about a little about that in just a minute. Here are the top application concerns for class of 2021 if you regard to COVID-19. Just in case you're still wondering, aside from some private local high schools, so please, I know that, there's not been an SAT at a commonly outside attended site in California since March 2020. Now, some high schools on their own have offered it. Why? The continuing response to COVID-19 by the governors, teachers unions, public employee unions, school districts, and county health officers has the schools closed for the rest of the year. So that's where we are. If the schools closed, there's no test site. Reopening of the school sites is tied to case positivity. We've talked about this before, 5% or less, 21-day period, never been reached. Before, the criteria was hospital beds and deaths and things like that, but now they've tied it to case positivity, which makes it really difficult. Assume there will not be an SAT or ACT offered in the state, other than if your high school separately offered it to their students. Most colleges are now at least test optional. Many are no test at all. UC, CSU, and California privates are no tests, and a few, well, now I can say they're all no test, so this chart's already obsolete. Use fairtest.org and you'll see there's 1,600 plus test optional. We talked about that. Conclusion, you should concentrate on having the proper college list. I would argue that that's especially true this year. I do want to say one more thing before I go to private colleges. And I think we'll get to it in these view graphs, but I'm going to talk about it and then we'll get to it later. Brings up the question of, gee, what will happen if, I know all parents think this, so I'm going to put it out in the open. Well, there'll be this student that comes in with a super high SAT score that will beat out my student. Well, that will be true in any year, right? I mean, any year, that could be a problem. But actually what schools are going to do is look at the GPA students first, right? Because that's the reason for them going test optional. They want to look at more applications, right? That's why they went test optional. So people would still apply, they could consider them. And it was like a way of them protecting themselves to get more acceptances in case they show up, fewer students are applying. A school like NYU had to go at least test optional because only 30% of the students showed up this fall. It just would be intolerable for them to not have enough applications. So there'd be a lot of GPA forgiveness from some schools that were previously selective, and the other ones that aren't previously selective, that's okay. They'll just be like they normally are. They'll be hard to get into regardless. So unless you hit one of those schools, it's probably highly unlikely that your situation will be different with test optional versus the other. Now, students with reduced GPAs are going to have issues anywhere probably with affordability. But because I don't think schools are going to change how they view affordability in all of this. Just don't think they'll do that. They'll look at both SAT and ACT. Okay, SAT and GPA. Cost, and there'll be more about it. Because really we're talking about private schools. Please mute. Thank you. Really, when what we're talking about now is private schools. Because private schools is what the big question that you have, not really public schools. Most of them have dropped the SAT, even out of state public schools. Let's talk about private school admissions processes. Let's see if there's any questions first. I better check. Is Quinn watching that, or you hear me, Christina? Somebody watching?
Okay.
Your sound doesn't work, Quinn. You may have to come back in. Can't hear you. That's probably what's going on.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Chanel's asking, what's the difference between score free and test blind?
None. Next question. No difference. Next question.
That's it.
Yes. It's the same thing. Score free, test blind, they're all the same. Okay. Often, let's talk about cost considerations. First of all, when we'll say like, oh, is there another question? Follow up to that?
Nope. Go ahead.
Okay. It's often thought of as selective private college instead of private college, because private colleges are selective. It's a reminder that they're more selective than public universities. That's a great general way of thinking about it. Higher GPA is required for admission to private colleges, and certainly to be cost affordable and sustainable, you're going to have higher grades to get into a private university. Get into and then pay for. I know there's a lot of attention in our community on getting accepted to schools, but little attention to being able to afford them. I think there should be equal attention to both. I'll have more to say about that. Selective private colleges cost more for sure. For middle-class families, you can expect $20,000 to $55,000, depending on which selective private college is picked. Now, there's some exceptions to the rule, but they're not ones you'll normally consider, so it's not worth discussion. Although some will, like a school like Grand Canyon would be a school that would fit this, would be, for most people, more like the upper teens in costs, which is absurdly low for a private college. But then again, that school is only $25,000 frozen in costs for 5 years anyway. In a data-driven process, many students should not apply for private colleges, especially now. Yeah, some students probably shouldn't if we're making our processes data-driven. We're going to say, all right, well, we only going to apply for private schools if we have a chance of getting into the private school. Then many should not really apply, especially now. You're going to have the GPA to account for not having test scores to help is one issue. And the other is it just would have been more selective anyway. As for schools being forced to admit students, there's a limit to that because they're going to need to collect full tuition. If they don't think they can, some schools are going to probably, be a little more picky than they normally would be. Ironically, I think they're making a huge mistake. I hope you understand that I think that. In general, I want students to remember that you get the school you earn with your GPA, but not necessarily the one you want. And that's one of the saddest things about this process. You can't always get the school you want. It depends on what kind of GPA you're commanding. Just let them write in, Quinn, when you see them wanting to admit. I think you'll be able to do that. Okay. Next, we have COVID-19. This is a very important view graph and consumer considerations. As a consumer, there's really students and parents, you're consumers, right? You're going to there's a product. The school is a product if you look at it that way. Will your college be open in fall of 2021? I don't mean open for business, I mean the campus open. Or will you be at home and virtual like our seniors are going to be our first year students are going to be for the whole year now, pretty much in California. They're going to be online. And even in other cities, they're not going to get to their campuses until fall. But as you watch the news, you have to wonder whether they'll be open. And that's a particularly important question for schools that are going to charge you the same amount for tuition, whether you're on the campus or you're virtual. Keep that in mind. It's going to be the same cost. So like, I don't know, I'll pick on anybody. George Washington University, right? GW is going to be, I think it's, let me think about this for a minute. It's about $48,000, it's $25,000 for one semester, whether you're on the campus or at home. Even though they just reduced by 12% for students at home, it's still pretty high. So as a consumer, it's a question that you need to ask, right? No college visit is probably the reality. That means you're not going to get to visit private schools in some cities at all this next semester. So you're going to be visiting you're going to be agreeing to go to the school blindly. And I know what a lot of you just thought, well, I can do virtual tours, right? Okay, so in theory, there's nothing wrong with a virtual tour, except that the campus is more than just buildings and how it looks. A campus is really the people, and that's the one thing you can't do. You can't feel the students or the instructors or the staff of the school or the departments and things like that. Well, you say I can call them. That's true, you can. A lot of schools are not set up to do that now properly. I will say that CSU is doing a lot right now to overcome that, and I hope you notice that. I'll be talking a lot more about that. I may even have somebody from Cal State Central here in our next meeting. I think they're doing a lot to overcome you not being able to visit the campus, but it has to be something that schools are thinking about very carefully. It's the same tuition if virtual is a reality. If you go virtual, it's the same tuition as if you're on the campus. And it's a good reason to keep your selective private college list a little bit shorter, than you normally would. Remember, you visit and find out how to sort it out. Think about the real COVID timeline, since politicians and experts have said no vaccine equals no school. And then you just heard the governor say this week that even if the vaccine comes out, he's going to want a 6-month study of it. And I think the governor from Oregon said that. And I think the mayor of DC said that. And somebody else said it too. I think Michigan or something, she said it. So they're all saying they want to do their own health departments. Oh, New York said it too. They want to do their own health department studies of the vaccine. And that could mean 6 more months. Now think about that in your timeline. If they delay it 6 more months, will the schools use that 6 months to get the campus ready, or will they use it to, strengthen their virtual programs? And do they have the funding to do a lot of that stuff? It's a real interesting question. So I think it might, if they don't administer a vaccine until summer of next year, then that might jeopardize the fall. Let me get very straight. I haven't heard they will, but it's something as a consumer, you should ask your school, are you preparing for fall? See their answer. They may say, no, we're not right now. They may say we are, but we don't know. You need to know their answer on that. I think different schools will answer you different ways. I'm asking all the schools that I think you're applying to. I'm asking them all the time that. I called about 5 schools last week. Some have said we have to wait till there's no cases. Well, if the school is going to wait till there's no cases, I'm fairly confident that they will not open your freshman year, because there are going to be cases. Let's just face it, you guys. There's going to be cases. The question is, are we going to have our elderly and those of us who have comorbidities protected? That's all. And do we have the vaccine? That's really the question, because you don't want to have over-hospitalization, even though we know the young people just are not getting real sick and passing away with this virus. But some have still said we have to wait until there's no cases. See, all of that stuff has a bearing on this view graph as a consumer when you're thinking, will the school be open in the fall? Okay. Part 2, the admissions requirement differences. Essays and teacher recommendations are required by private schools. There's some that don't, but almost all do require one or both of these, okay? Counselor report is also required on some of these, most of them. Certainly if they're Common App, the counselor report is going to be required. The Common Application essay and often supplemental essays and a short answer. Some of you have already worked on these, like good old Chanel out there, know that all 3 of these bullets are correct. You might wonder, well, how do I turn the counselor's report in? How do I turn in the teacher record? No, you don't. You put their email addresses in the Common App. And when you send the Common App, guess what? Or actually, when you put it in the Common App, it starts to email those people. Some of you have already seen you asking me for recommendations. It's already been emailing. I've answered some of them already. So even though you haven't sent it, it's already telling people to please send you the send in the recommendation. So you don't have to have that when you deliver the Common App. I want to be sure you're very aware of that. Just the email addresses of each of those people that you need. Some schools have other unique application requirements, like for example, auditioning and videos and things like that are required from certain majors, okay? Another difference is that the admissions decisions are not rolling, meaning that you're not going to hear from them early in the process. It's going to be March or April before you hear from a private college. There's some exceptions to that rule, right? But just most private schools, just about all of them are going to be March and April, okay? And they'll always need a 3-year transcript. One of the things you're going to hear about, or maybe next view graph, is me telling you to be sure to send your transcript to private colleges. You need to send that to them. I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Have any questions there, Quinn? Quinn? Hope she's not in trouble with her sound. Christina? Somebody? Hello? I think they're having trouble communicating with me. All right, okay. How about part 3, alternative colleges? 2-year college, if efficiently planned out, is an alternative. I can't lie to you and tell you it's not an alternative. It is an alternative to what you're doing. CSUs are an alternative to private colleges. They have lower GPA requirements and cost. Universities of California are lower cost and similar GPA requirements to private though. So the GPA is still going to have to be high for University of California, but there is a lower cost. Or I should have said high, I should have said relatively high, relatively high. Let me check the chat here. I'm kind of on my own here for a minute. Let's see, 3-year meaning excluding the, oh no, 3-year means freshman, sophomore, and junior year transcript. I'll say a lot more about that in a minute. 3 years means 9th, 10th. There's this misnomer that freshman year doesn't count. I don't know where that came from. I don't understand that. I think it's coming from how the GPA is calculated for CSU and UC, but nobody says they're not going to look at the transcripts for the freshman year. Everybody wants to see those. And there you go. So hope that answered the question there. Okay. Let's see, University of California. The other option is some out-of-state public universities, right, are going to be an option. They're a lower cost, and some of them have reduced GPA requirements. It's easier to get merit money from those schools and makes up for the difference in cost, no problem. So it ends up being the same cost in some cases as going in-state. And I've listed out those before in previous presentations. If you're interested in getting that, just let me know. In fact, I should go ahead and talk about it. I'll tell you in a minute how you can hear a presentation. If you've missed like the last couple of presentations, maybe you haven't been here. I had a session the end of September. If you missed that one, it was a key presentation. So I told which colleges will cost. Or if you were there and just forgot, you'll have a chance to see me present that at the Lakewood City College Fair on our website. And at the end, I'll show you how to look that up on our website. You can even do it now. It's a banner at the top. Or just go to events, right? Go to events on my website and you'll see it. I'm actually speaking tomorrow night there. It's not too late to get in and hear that. So I'll be covering the cost of schools there. Well, how are colleges going to decide who gets in and who doesn't get in? How are they going to decide that? Interesting question. Well, GPA was always more important than SAT, always. So it really is true now. It's going to be something they're going to be looking at, the GPA you have. Oops. The essay quality, which sometimes shows the depth of your experiences, your rhetorical writing ability, very important. The clear communication. See, a lot of the writing in high school is going to be related to literature. is not appropriate for a college essay. College essays ask questions that require expository writing or writing to persuade. And these are all advanced forms of writing that are taught in college. Clear communication of ideas and just flat out directness of answering a question. Are you answering the question that was asked? And do you do it in the appropriate way where it's clear and understandable? So essay quality is going to be important. I've reviewed probably at this point, about 70 essays this year. And this is very important, going to be very important. I'm reviewing them a lot differently this year, knowing that there isn't the SAT. Leadership activities is something that's going to be good for private colleges. It's a private college issue only. Community-based organization involvement will be very important. So you can list me as your community-based organization. How about that? If they ask that, that's what we are here. We're a community-based enrichment program, but that's going to become important. Race and gender, but maybe not the way you think. For example, Black and Hispanic students are going to be, really wanted by majority white schools. Let's face it, especially Black males. Sorry, ladies, but they want both of you. But Black males, so they're really taking a hit right now. Is actually Black females are on campuses, selected private college campuses at a higher level than Black males, for sure. There are social justice considerations, but it's real considerations when you think about the fact that a lot of them feel they've not really made the effort. And to that end, I've gotten at least 7 emails from private, predominantly white colleges that want to speak to my students. So you'll be seeing those invitations. In fact, some of them are on my website now, I believe. We put those up. We're going to be sending you emails to point you to those. If I can get some help from my 2 helpers, we'll get it up sooner than we think. We'll go to that website and show you. I want one of them to help take me through that. They're hearing me. College course history is qualitative, not quantitative. It's qualitative. So the college course history is, what are the qualities of the courses you've taken? It's not quantitative in that they don't have to all be AP courses. That's, people think it's your AP courses GPA, but actually private schools don't look at weighted GPA at all. They look at the quality of your courses that you've taken, okay? Here's a list of bad only or primary reasons to pick a college. This is based on my previous experiences with earlier students. Let me see if anybody's asking me anything now. No. Okay. My boyfriend or girlfriend is going to a school. My friends are going. These have not proven to be good reasons to pick a college in the past. And not for maybe the reasons you think, but sometimes we'll sacrifice the career we have in mind to be going to the school of the person that we want to be around the most. Just be careful about that. Remote or not close relative. Oh yeah, that's right. So if you have a relative that's maybe you're not as close to, some parents will feel that it's better, but at least they're a relative and they live near the school. They feel that's a criteria for picking the school. When it's a close relative, yes. I mean, close is like your grandmother, your mother's brother, your mother's sister, but oftentimes, cousins and people you haven't seen in years and years, it's not an option that a student will feel comfortable with in the city as much as you think. They'll develop their own social safety nets on their campus, which is what should happen. I need to get far away from home. Some students think that, but that's a wrong reason to pick one school over another, all things being equal. It should be reasons for that decision. I don't believe going away from the home. I don't view it as an enrichment experience. I don't say, well, they'll learn a lot away from home. I mean, they may or may not, but they can live on a campus and learn how nearby and learn how to be away from home. There's got to be another reason for going away from home. And maybe it's a certain program they want or a city they want to be in. These are all great reasons that they feel that maybe the city's enriching, right? That's a possibility. Racial concerns or fears. Sure, they're real. And every 4 years, it seems that that's a major issue on our program with our students. I've been here, quite a few election cycles, maybe 5. And every 4 years, there's a heightened racial concerns and heightened fears racially. And that's because, usually in those years, one of the parties is raising a lot of concerns about race, and it's scary. It's kind of scary, especially this year where we're definitely very sensitized to those racial issues. But I don't want that to be the only reason you pick a campus. That's probably not appropriate to do that. The coach promised me I would play. Please, athletes, do not make that the reason you attend a school. I mean, you might pick one in Podunk, Kansas for that reason. Promised me I would play. So if you get there and the coach gets fired, and now you're in Podunk, Kansas, and the new coach doesn't really know you, I guarantee you're coming back home, So be careful when these coaches promise you, and ask them, great coach, how long will you be working? Can you guarantee me you're going to be here all 4 of my years, or 3 of my years, or 2 of my years? And usually they're very hesitant about doing that, since there's a lot of mobility in the coaching business. I need to stay in town with my friends. See, I had the case of people wanting to go away, and there's some that say, I just need to stay at home with my friends, who usually are not going to a 4-year college. I don't think that's a good reason to stay in town with your friends. I think that might be a case for for you to develop a new life in another school, maybe another school nearby, but out of town. But this is one that is not a great reason to pick a particular college. Okay. That brings up, what about athletes in COVID? What about athletes in the COVID situation that we have? Unfortunately, with the loss of billions of dollars in TV revenue and donations by Division I and Division II colleges, they will give out way fewer scholarships, as you probably would expect. There's going to be very few given out, way fewer than in the past. They took a real budget hit last year, and I'll see if I can. They lost billions of dollars. I think the final total is $2.5 billion that the NCAA lost in TV revenue last year when they sent the students home early, not having the football season or shortened seasons this year, factoring the loss of spring sports and the shortening of sports for the fall. Some conferences aren't even playing at all this year. Small colleges with reduced enrollments will also have fewer scholarships. So even smaller colleges without the Division I money they lost will have fewer scholarships because the enrollment of non-athlete students is down, so their revenue is down. They can't give as many athletic scholarships. Here's the best tips for athletes right now. Get your grades up. Use this time where you're not playing your sport to get your grades up. Plan to walk on in year 2. Maybe you can go to a campus and walk on in the sport. Get admitted on academic merit or 2-year college and try to play there. Play at the 2-year college. How about that? Stay in great physical condition. That's very important for you, for athletes, right? Hope for summertime tryouts for some of these out-of-state colleges. You might say, well, I don't know whether to apply. Well, if they really want you, you won't see an application anyway, right? If they really want you, you're not going to really see an application like other students anyway. They want to give you a scholarship or whatever. For basketball and volleyball, there are going to be the club tournaments out of state that inevitably will restart either sometime later in the summer, out of state, in states that are not locked down. You might be able to play in those tournaments that are out of state. You'll have to travel to them is all. So talk to your club coach, stay close to them is the best thing I could say to that. We're going to cover how to send transcripts to colleges. This is probably a good time to find out. Do any of you have any questions? Any questions so far?
No, not yet.
Okay, all right. You're there, you're hearing me, right? Okay, good. Maybe your high school insists on sending the transcripts for you. Well, they may use an online service like Parchment or the transcript service that Naviance provides, who knows? They may even just mail them for you. In any case, guess whose responsibility it is to follow up and make sure the transcripts are delivered? It would be your responsibility. It may be that they make you go to Parchment, order the transcripts yourself, and you have to mail them. Let's talk about that. If the high school is not sending the transcript, you should send it now. And we're talking now about official transcripts, not the unofficial one, meaning the sealed 3-year transcript for freshman, sophomore, and junior year. When I say transcript, that's what I mean, 3-year transcript. Maybe you should send it, you should send it now. If the high school council says they're not sending it, you send it right now. And who gets it? We'll tell you who colleges get it in a minute, but let me tell you this part first. Do not send CSU or UC transcripts until you are accepted and enrolled. You do not send, let me say that again twice. You do not send transcripts to CSU or UC. If you do, they will shred the transcript. That's very important because if you send it to them now and they shred it, and then they actually ask you to send one officially later, you won't send it because you think you already sent it. And they won't think they ever got it because they shred it if they get it and haven't asked for it. Hope that makes sense. Do not send transcripts to CSU or UC till you're accepted and enrolled. Now, if you have a counselor that's telling you that, and one, you just found an amateur, right? You found someone who doesn't understand the process. Sister Angelique, speak right up. Open your mic up, speak right up.
Okay, so you said about sending these transcripts. Do not
What high school,
send to
what high school is it?
OFL,
Oh, say it again.
Opportunities for Learning.
Got it. Okay, I'm with you. Go ahead.
So I'm confused. So you don't send it until you enrolled or until they accept you?
Look
then
at
you
the
send
last bullet closely. CSU and
Okay.
only, okay?
Okay.
You don't send them the transcripts unless they request it. I got news for you, they're not. Now, when do you
Okay.
send it? When do you send it? After you're
Right.
accepted and you pick the school, we have a process called enrollment, meaning that you now start getting classes. You're considerably far from that situation. They have to be accepted first. This is out in the spring, like in June. So you will send the 8th semester transcript, but it is not something they want now. They'll shred it.
Okay. We're gonna have to do something privately soon. So, okay.
Remember, 8 semesters. You only have 7 now.
Right.
You won't have 8 until
Okay.
she graduates.
Right.
Right. That's what this is saying. CSU UC does not want to see it until then.
Till she graduates.
Right. Because enrollment means you're going to get classes, right?
Right.
Okay. Getting accepted is not enrollment.
Ah.
And you know
Okay.
you know that about your house too. If you say Deacon Wilson come over for dinner, right? If I say yes, have I had dinner yet?
No.
That's right. And when will I have dinner? After I go there to eat.
Right.
Right. That's what this means. Enrollment means enrollment after you've been accepted, after you go, after you've done the registration. Usually course registration is when they want those.
Really?
Because at that point, you've already picked the school, haven't you?
Yeah, but you just,
There you
okay.
go. Don't you think they're trying to avoid having a lot of paper?
Okay.
Would you want all that paper?
Okay. No.
Something like 1 million transcripts?
Right.
Right. That's why they don't do it. Now, if they ask you for it, hey, oh, by the way, we like to see it, then you send it.
Okay, so all they're wanting is just the applications and
That's
all the
it.
different
That's
stuff
it.
you participating in.
Just the application.
Okay.
Now you see the application that's loaded because it includes the essays.
Right.
But
Okay, I haven't,
CSU, there are no essays. CSU, there are no essays.
Oh, okay.
Well, how do they
we
know?
really need.
You might wonder how
behind.
does CSU know the grades? Does anybody want to answer that question? How does CSU know your grades? Can anybody answer that?
It's self-reporting.
That's right. You're telling on yourself. And she answered that question, even though she know I did hers for her. I think, right? So that's right. It's
Yes, you did.
It's self-reported. So why would they want to? They're going to trust you. You know about self-reporting. That's how you do your taxes. Don't you?
Right.
Don't you tell yourself?
Yes.
There you go. You know why you do that? Because they don't want all that paper.
Wow. Okay. Well, we have to off
right.
of this. We have to
All right.
do something.
Well, remember at the
Thank
end,
you.
in fact, on the cover here, And at the end, we'll share with you my number and my email address. I'm all out there in the public.
Good.
You should
Me
really
too.
you should get a hold of it. You probably have my cell number somewhere.
Yeah, I do. I was looking for it the other day, but we'll go through
Everybody
that.
everybody in town got my number.
Okay, I don't want to waste any more time, but okay, we'll
You're not a
connect this
waste of my
week.
time, Sister Angelique. Definitely not a waste. All right, okay, there's been other people had the same question. All right, so transcripts is a very important topic, because now I'll share with you why it's so important. It's so important because when I hear, like out in April, from people I haven't seen all year, I never heard from USC, and I go, did you send your transcripts? And they always say, oh, wow, I never sent them. That's why you never heard, right? It's particularly true with private colleges, right? Because I already said CSU and UC don't need the transcript. Never send sealed official transcript. This is how to send transcripts, okay? Never send sealed official transcripts by a certified mail. Don't do that. That's when you send it by certified mail, guess where the transcript ends up, everybody? It goes to the mail room. Now you got to depend on the mail room to bring it to the admissions office. I don't know. I guess they might. But what if they don't? Okay. Instead, I want you to use priority mail with destination tracker. In fact, I just thought about this. I would probably at this point not send my transcripts to November 10th. Does anybody know why?
Election?
Who said that? Speak right up. Speak.
Chanel, hi.
Hi. What's the reason?
Election mail, like ballots and stuff?
You're absolutely right. You got 21 million pieces of mail flying around. I'm sorry, 15 million pieces of mail flying around in California now. So I'd wait till November 10th at this point. Now, if you send them already, you're in good shape. I believe, Chanel, you're one of those. That's fine. But I would do this stuff after the 10th. I didn't say that here. It just hit my mind. But use priority mail with a destination tracker via the post office, United States Postal Office mail, or Federal Express, and send directly to the college's undergraduate admissions office. Does everyone understand that? That's very important. It's what I think the counselors may not do, and it worries me. Here's how you address the letter. Sister Angelique, go ahead. Sister Angelique, raise your hand. Did you mean that? Did you raise your hand, Sister Angelique? Hello, going once. Sister Angelique, can you hear me? Maybe your mic is closed.
Now I can. Now I can. What's the latest you can send the transcripts?
Tomorrow.
Oh wow.
What am I saying to you? November 10th? What's
Right.
the indication of what I'm saying? That it's very important to send them. I'm trying to connote the importance of sending transcripts. So I was
Okay.
10th. Now, if you're not applying till later, of course you can wait, right? Say you're applying in December to private colleges, just make sure you follow with the transcript right away. Like in the same day that you click send the transcript. Now, if you send them early, colleges have great memories and they'll hold on to them, okay? But I really think it's important to send the transcript. Now, did I say send it to CSU and UC?
No.
No, you don't send it to them. Okay. Here's how you address the letter. University college name, the address, city, state, zip code, and then put attention, Office of Undergraduate Admissions, transcript review. You do that, it won't get lost. Very important. Please hang on to this. It's super important. So Chanel, there's the answer to your question from the other day, right? Okay. What do I send to which colleges? Now, I didn't do SAT scores, and I didn't do it here because it's not needed to do it. But let's look at the transcript thing here. I usually on SAT scores, every school needs it. That's not true. because many schools are no test. UC and CSU are no test. If you want to send scores to a test optional school, you can do that. You don't have to do that, right? But look at the transcripts. No transcripts to CSU, UC. Yes, transcripts to out-of-state public colleges, private colleges, and even HBCUs. Everybody gets a transcript except for CSU and UC. I'll say that again twice. Every college gets a transcript except for CSU and UC. Every college gets a 3-year transcript except CSU and UC. And some will get the 7th semester because they may request the 7th semester from you. Then they would get that transcript. Let these folks write in who are coming late. Wait. Okay. All right. Any questions on Q&A or chat or whatever?
There's a question
Go ahead.
in regards to going back to the fee waiver for CSUs. How do we qualify for that?
By being PO, P-O-O. It's P-O-O-R without the O-R. You got to be PO. At the time you apply, it has to be applied. Now, how many people are here today, Quinn? Somebody. I might go ahead and say this in public. I don't know.
Let me double check.
Something in public I may say here.
18, 17.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
Well, that's the truth. It's going to be based on your income. And unless you're applying through an approved community-based partner of CSU, you're not going to get a fee waiver if you're above being PO. Now, I am, or we are, approved community-based partners. Hint, hint.
Yeah, I am.
Well, I am. It's not you. It's all about me. It's about whether I'm a community-based partner. Did you allow us to do your application for you and then work with you on how to do your track it afterwards?
Okay.
Demonstrate that you're in my program.
Thank you, Deacon.
Okay, so there's somebody that got the message.
Dee, here's another question. Can you send transcripts via Naviance?
Yeah, if your counselor's paying attention, doing it right, yes. But so many counselors, if I had a brand new counselor at my school, I wouldn't do that. I'd ask her for the transcripts, do it myself. If you have a brand new counselor, don't rely on Naviance. I hate to answer that way, but I'm trying to be clear. Okay, anybody else? Anything else?
Yeah, I have a question. It's Chanel again. Hi.
I know.
So, on Common App, it says for counselor, it's like mid-year counselor report. Is that a semester grade? Is that like my first semester grade?
No, it's a lot of other stuff. Did you put their email address in the appropriate field?
Yes, they've already like.
If you do, they'll see it and they'll know it.
Okay. So
Now, if they don't turn it in, shame on them.
But what is it? Like, what's the mid-year report? Because they've done the
Mid-year
score
report is
and
the
other stuff.
7th semester.
The second semester?
The 7th, the first semester.
The 7th semester?
Okay, this is your 7th semester, my friend.
Oh,
This
so it's
semester
like-
right now is your 7th semester. Some
okay.
are required to get that, some don't care.
Okay.
So I gotta know more but just make sure you have the email address of the counselor in your Common App. If you do that, you're protected. You're protected.
No, I don't. Well, when you pay rent, I'm not. But whenever I
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, I know you couldn't hear. Hold on. Okay. All you got to make sure of is that the counselor's email address is in the appropriate field in the Common App.
Okay.
If you do that, ignore the college. Now, if the college is not a Common App school, we need to talk offline.
Okay.
But I think it's going to be a Common App school. Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
I see there.
Okay. Thank you.
I know your situation there, Chanel.
Hey, Deacon Wilson.
Hey.
We have a question.
We?
Yasmin and I.
Okay.
And so we would like to know if your service is already preparing like all of our common apps and that sort of stuff. Do we
Preparing.
have to, when I say,
I've already secretly got her started. She doesn't realize it.
is she over here?
She's not paying attention. That means I'm really good. I'll prove it to you. Let me prove it to you. Have you done the Common App essay yet?
I did one, yeah.
Say yes.
Yes.
Okay. Pretty good essay too, by the way. Anyway, so you did your Common App essay, and that's 90% of the work. Did you set up your Common App account yet?
You did.
Oh, we did. Oh, I see. I see. Did I ask for your counselor's email address?
No, you didn't.
Sure, I did. I can prove it. I'll send you the email back. I asked for it months ago.
I didn't get that email. I think it got lost, you know.
Nah. Well, maybe I just know your counselor. That's a problem too. But also, did I get a teacher's email address?
No, you didn't.
Really? I'm gonna send you that email back. I asked
Okay.
you, you gave it to me.
Okay.
But just don't worry. Before it goes out, you get a look at it. So we've already started as my argument.
Okay. But so do we have to, because I'm not sure if we also sent you the 3-year transcript already, but
It doesn't go to me. It doesn't go to me. Let me go back to that page. It goes to the schools.
Oh, so even though you guys are.
Ask your counselor. You go to a private high school. Ask her how she's handling the transcripts.
So I just want to make sure, even though you guys are providing us with the service, then we're responsible for making sure the transcripts get out.
Yeah, I can't do anything about transcripts.
Okay.
About it, I really can't. What can I do?
I guess nothing if we don't.
Yeah. Ask your school though. Ask them what are they doing about transcripts. You might find out they're sending them.
They're probably I think they're going through Naviance.
Okay, so then that would be your answer. You're done. Make sure they know the schools, right? I would make sure. But you remember, yeah, just make sure they know the schools. As good as I know. Because I know the schools, I just don't remember, but I know the schools. Do they know the schools?
Okay.
Okay, you got a little homework there.
3 days, but 5 to 6. I don't know if I could do that.
Erica, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. I don't have a question.
Okay, just close your mic. Thanks. Anybody else?
Chanel again. I have another question. Okay. Would it be best to submit the transcripts electronically due to like all the mail stuff? Or would they prefer
See, I'm worried of saying yes. I'm going to say it would be best, but what do you know about that? How do you do that? And that's a loaded question.
How do I do it through like?
How do you do electronic transcript submittal?
It says do it through parchment.
Okay, so you could do it. I want to hear the magic word. So who says? You said it says. Who says?
The college, like they already asked me for transcripts. But I didn't know what to do.
So you have to go through parchment, which means you got to ask them to guide you. It's called guidance. They have to guide you to set up a parchment account.
Okay, so I just
if they're saying that's the only way you can get a transcript. But if it was me, I would do both.
You'll send it through parchment.
If they say they're going to send it by parchment, they say they're going to send it, I would ask for the real transcript and do it also.
Oh no, not my high school, like the college. Like when I put in my application, they asked me to send the transcript.
Right, so they won't take one by mail at all?
It says by mail, but I'm asking which one would be better.
If you know how to use parchment, it's better. If you don't, it's not better. Do you know how to use parchment?
No.
Because guess what? I purposely do not.
Oh. Okay then.
Talk to the school. Maybe they'll help you. Got to set up an account. It's going to cost.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I'll do it by mail.
Yeah, just do it after the 10th of November.
Okay, got it.
And
Thank you.
And record the mailing.
Okay.
The way I showed you, the way I said on the view graph, right? No certified mail people. Nobody
Okay.
certified mail is gonna go to the mailroom. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
This is actually a very important topic. That's why I'm making sure I answer all the questions. Is there another question?
Deacon Wilson, on your graph here, you say that CSU and UCs, they don't need the 3-year transcripts.
Not at all. That's right.
So based off the colleges that I have, that I'm going to be
Yeah.
enrolling to or applying to,
Yeah.
I don't need to send any transcripts in, do I? Or would this be like a private conversation because you have to look at the colleges that I?
Well, no, it's not private, but look, if it's a private school, they get transcripts. Do you understand that part?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So that takes care of all your private colleges, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about CSU and UC. No.
Okay.
I know it's hard to believe, but unless they ask you for it by email, it's not required. They're not going to ask you. Trust me. Because it'd have to be a mistake on the application. And the odds of that with us is very low.
Okay. Thank you.
Please, I know it's hard to believe. If the counselor says you're required to, you just met an amateur. Okay? It's not required for CSU and UC. They do not want the transcripts. They don't want the hassle unless they ask. Okay, anybody else? No, okay. All right. Here's how the college, speaking of the college decision process, here's how it should go. College application delivered and fees paid. Transcripts sent, not to CSU and UC unless requested. I keep bringing that up over and over again. Did you notice? Have you noticed that's the theme here? It's pretty doggone important. That's why. Next, the FOSTA information should be done. You should check the student aid reports. I'm going to talk about that next week. Okay, everybody? Teach you how to look up your student aid report. I'll tell you what it is and all that kind of stuff. Are all the colleges covered? A need for the profile. All that stuff I'm covering next week. Now, if I'm working on your, with your personal support client, of course, I've got number 2 covered, right? College acceptance you'll receive. Guess how they tell you you're accepted? Some sends a letter. It's very unusual, but mostly it's by email on what's called a portal. You'll set up a portal. We'll be engaging you very shortly, students. Those who we've submitted the CSUs for will start to engage you next month in how to set up your portals. The CSUs will start communicating with you only through email and in the portals. Okay? Same thing with UC, by the way. I never mentioned that, but UC only seems to use portals as well. Then you're going to review your options for your colleges as they start sending you the acceptance letters. There's going to be campus tours. I don't think so. Maybe so. What do I know? Comparison of net direct costs. You're going to learn how to do that in meetings we're going to have here. I'm going to teach you how to read the financial aid report. I'm going to start doing that probably toward mid-November, teaching you how to read those. And then you're going to do payment planning. I'll teach you how to do that too. Please come back to our meetings. You learn so much about the college process here. Admissions offer acceptance. There's going to be a non-refundable deposit, except in the case of some CSUs. If you've already turned in your FOSTA and you're below a certain income, you might not have a deposit. I'll teach you about that if you're here. Inform other colleges of your decision to attend somewhere else. Important step in case you change your mind later. Housing deposit is partially non-refundable. You activate your student direct loan. Parents apply for parent loans. School and class enrollment. See there, Sister Angelique, see where it is, number 10? Sister Angelique, you see what I mean? It's down here, number 10. But number 5 was acceptance of the admission, right? But you go down to number 10 before you enroll. And that's where you get into getting your classes. I thought we'd end the meeting by talking a little bit about scholarships. I'm gonna tell you everything I know about scholarships right now. Now, if you're expecting me to find scholarships, like all the scholarships you find will be from me. No, probably not. I'm probably gonna be suggesting scholarships on my website. On our website, under scholarships, we'll be suggesting plenty of scholarships there. That site will get more and more mature as we move to the scholarship season. We're just not in season right now. I have a few there now. There are some scholarships there now if you go on our website. Are either one of you ready to show that? If you share, if I let you share.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the share. Could you show them the scholarship page on the website? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear it, Sid?
Excuse me?
Can you see it?
Okay, I can. We all can see. So
Okay.
before you do that, Quinn, go back up to the top. How did you get there?
First you go to more, you just hover over it, don't click it.
Is it more?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it over college process?
Or I just go to articles, but
Okay, over college process. There you go. Go down.
college process and scholarships as well.
There's another way to get to it. See?
Yeah.
You click there, you get in here too, okay? And then we scroll down a little bit, Quinn. We have October scholarships in here. Go ahead and click the button. So this site is the way that I communicate with you on scholarships. And the only site you can find them is scholarship.com. And you can go right in there and find what scholarships are available right now. Okay, so we don't follow up on you and make you do it. And but we have a site, which if you go on that site, now that one, scholarship.com will not be the only scholarships. As we get to the scholarship season, I have people approaching me and telling me about their scholarships they want to give to our students. And so that site will get more and more mature when we get to the February to April time period, where that's the first scholarship period. Okay, so as far as scholarships, that's how you find them. Okay, thanks, Quinn. Okay. But also you can find it other way. You can find it for yourself. I'll show you how. It's extremely rare, however, that outside scholarships will cover a substantial portion of what I call the direct college cost. The direct college cost is the tuition and room and board for a school. They usually do a good job of covering the indirect college costs, like books, like transportation, maybe a laptop, maybe some spending money after you get to the school. Because by the way, they usually don't fund until you start school. You can win it, and then you get the money when you started school, okay? Let's see. Many who claim they are getting funded by a lot of third-party scholarships are really getting a large merit scholarship from the school or a lot of need-based funds from the school. That's a different conversation, isn't it? So it's a conversation that goes, let's pick the right college. This is all about third-party scholarships today. People use the term scholar. I notice this, people will say scholarships and financial aid interchangeably all the time. They'll say, how much financial aid did you get? And they mean scholarships, right? Because financial aid also is loans. We'll have that conversation next week. I believe next week it comes, or next meeting anyway. Due to the above, watch for scams from companies who claim that if you pay them, they can guarantee a scholarship. They usually say, and our financial aid, they usually say, we can guarantee you $3,500. We guarantee, just pay us $40. Well, the problem with that is that every student, even if they're breathing, will get $3,500 in direct loans from the government. Everybody's entitled to that. So that's no big promise, no big claim to make, right? So don't pay for scholarships, whatever you do. The only way to get scholarships is the old-fashioned way, that is look for them. Or to pick an affordable, best way to afford college is really to pick one that's affordable from the jump and cost sustainable, and not to depend on it or bank on a large third-party scholarship. That will not happen. But you can look for scholarships. We'll talk about that. Students should apply for scholarships for sure, but they're a bit overrated given what parents hope and expect they will do. Most people, when they go to presentations with colleges, they always plant to see, well, if you don't get enough from us, just apply for scholarships. There's a lot of expectation. Part of what I'm doing here is to calibrate your expectations. To get scholarships that will cover the indirect costs is quite an achievement. That's what you should go for. And then also you'll find the occasional scholarship that may help with some of the direct costs, but they're going to be for higher GPAs students. And some are still looking at the SAT. Isn't that crazy? That's weird. Anyway, now I'm sure they're going to have to change. Direct costs are the major college cost, everyone. They're 80 to 90% of the cost are the tuition enrollment board. Typical scholarships are $500 to $1,000. The high ones can run $1,500 to $2,000. Okay? Conclusion, third-party scholarships are great for indirect costs. Travel, technology, personal expenses, books, not so good for direct costs, tuition, room, and board. Okay? I know my daughter had a scholarship, and I just told her when she gets her scholarship, I'm not sending her any money for a while, right? I took that as a break from sending her money then. But then I didn't know, little did I know, my mother was sending her money. Oh, how wonderful that was. The best results come with many applications and with high persistence, okay? The need-based is the second highest category. It's their incomes of $45,000 or less. They're going to be able to show a need basis. For example, the Gates Millennium is only going to give you a scholarship if you're getting a Pell Grant. That means your income is $45,000 or less. Here's the biggest mistakes I see with the scholarship application process. Excuse me. Very general recommendations. You ask for someone to write your recommendation and they do to whom it may concern. And you're happy with that because you're going to use it for everybody, right? Don't do that. You need to have customized recommendations. If you come to me for a recommendation, it's going to be customized. I want to know who we're doing it for. I will know a little more about the scholarship, and I'm going to write it directly to them as a personal letter. Trust me, as a person who's been on scholarship committees, I'm on one this year, I understand. On the outside, they invite me to be on committees. Every time I get a to whom it may concern, I make assumptions about that student and those. Now, I want to see about the recommender. I want to see a personal letter. I think that'd be cool. Applying for scholarships due to the amount, but no regard for if you even meet the qualifications. That's frequently people think, just apply, just apply. No, I want to see a very systematic and coordinated application process. This is a lot of work. The other reason is late applications and missed email is a big mistake I see in the scholarship process. More of our viewpoint on scholarships. The highest scholarships are awarded to students who need it the least. Isn't that a shame in the process? 3.8 or above get the highest third-party scholarships. But these are the students that are getting high scholarships from their colleges anyway. I don't think that's fair, but that's what happens. Every now and then you see a scholarship that's only for students who are 3.0 to 3.5, say. You see that sometimes. Need-based is, I think the Coca-Cola one's like that. I think it's 2.8 to 3.5, the Coca-Cola scholarship, which we're in open enrollment for that right now. Just go to my website, run the Coca-Cola scholarship, you can apply for it right now. Need-based is the second highest category, incomes of $45,000 or less. And the biggest mistakes, I have it here again for you, okay? Then here's the top third-party scholarship sources. Parents' job, fraternities and sororities, utilities, stores, credit unions. Just trying to get your ideas going. Connecticut has a really big scholarship. They give out like 200 or 300 of them every year to connect a credit union. All you have to do is open up a $5 credit union account to do it. When that one comes out, they'll be telling me directly. They always get a hold of me. I'll make sure I send that to you, okay? The church, your church, how about your church? Enrichment programs like us, they may offer scholarships to students who are not in them. I offer one for students that have high GPAs. Unfortunately, that's the only one we have right now. You'll have to have a pretty high GPA to get it, unfortunately. I'm working with the family and let you know if that changes, but that won't be till spring. Unions, smaller cities, school districts. This is data from our last 6 years of students. How to find a scholarship? Besides me telling you, you can wait for me, that's fine, but I think you should also be proactive. Note, we're not a scholarship search organization. We teach you how to find scholarships. Check your sources, ask your parents and others. Search company websites, utilities. Use Google, yep. The list literally changes every time you search. I can see that I haven't updated this, but you can type in college scholarships 2020 or college scholarships. And every time you press enter, you get a different list. You should search 2 or 3 times a week. Only apply when you meet the scholarship requirements. Please print out and read all forms and directions. Watch the due dates. How I can help with your scholarships. Can't fill them out for you, but I can do recommendations. But now you have to be a regular attendee to my program or my sessions, right? I have to know you. That's very important. I have to actually know you from our SAT classes or after school. It's gonna be a little different this year because we have all this distance stuff we're doing. But nevertheless, you may still have been in one of my classes, even virtual, right? Otherwise, someone who knows you personally is better to use, okay? I need the recommendation request 2 weeks in advance. I need web address in the forms and the exact person to which I'm writing the letter. Remember, I just told you I do personalized, customized letters. I will not do a Gates Millennium or other scholarship nomination if the youth does not meet the income and GPA requirement. It's only fair. If they don't meet the income requirement, you're just taking a shot on it. I don't really want to do that nomination. I think I can spend my time on other students with scholarships. They need to meet the income and GPA requirements. The nomination essay, give me a break, you guys, is 600 to 800 words, right? So obviously, if I'm going to spend that kind of time, I want to be sure you meet the requirements. Please give me 4 weeks for Gates Millennium, would you? Members, if you're a member of West Angeles, we have the West Angeles Sponsorship Fund Award that in the spring you'll hear about if everything goes right this year. Okay, that's all I had today.